Have you ever felt like life is pulling your strings? One harsh word, one cold silence, one unexpected twist at a time. What if the key to peace isn't controlling the world, but becoming untouchable to it? And what if everything you've been told about caring is what's actually keeping you trapped? There are moments when it feels like the world has you on a leash. Every rude comment, every ignored message, every little failure jerks at you like a tug from invisible hands. Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." And in today's world, most of us are being punished constantly, not by what happens to us, but by how we react to it. We've become emotional puppets, dancing to strings we didn't even know we allowed others to tie around us. Someone smiles, we breathe easy. Someone frowns, we shatter. A delay, a comment, a glance, and our peace collapses like a house of cards. But pause for a moment and ask yourself, what if no one and nothing could shake you ever again? What if you had inner strength so solid, no wave could move it? Think about it. How many pieces of your peace have you handed away? To strangers, to your past, to moments that hold no real weight. This video is more than just advice. It's a mirror showing the cost of caring too much about the wrong things. And once you see it clearly, everything begins to shift. This isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about becoming unshakable. You don't need to feel less. You need to cling less. Keep watching until the end, because there's a powerful bonus lesson waiting that will bring all of this together. Part 1. Why you should stop caring. There comes a point in your life when you are exhausted, not in your body, but in your soul. Exhausted from reacting, from defending, from overthinking every word you say and every silence you hear. You wake up and feel like you're wrapped in 1,000 invisible ropes. One pulls with someone's opinion, another tugs with expectations you never agreed to. And no one ever told you, you can let go. But here's the quiet truth. Peace doesn't come from caring about nothing. It comes from caring about the right things. You may have been taught that caring is kindness, or that worrying means love. But caring about everything? That's not love. That's a cage. Picture standing in a storm, and every opinion becomes a hook flying at you. Every criticism, every passive-aggressive silence. And what do? We grab the hooks. We let them drag us around. But what if you didn't? In Buddhist thought, the mind is like a still pond. Every reaction, every needless worry, it's like tossing a stone into that pond. The more you react, the more ripples you create, the less clearly you can see. Buddha said, "The root of suffering is attachment, and our attachments go far beyond people. We're attached to being liked, to being understood, to being seen. That's why a stranger's stare can hurt. That's why silence feels like rejection. But ask yourself honestly, does this really deserve my energy? Every day the world hands you invisible weights, a trending post, a regret from 5 years ago, a beauty standard that was never real, and without thinking, you carry them. But freedom begins the day you start asking, is this even mine to hold? If it's not in line with your values, if it doesn't lead you toward peace, drop it. The world tells us that fast replies show our worth, that caring more makes us valuable. But sometimes real strength looks like silence, like not being pulled into drama, like walking away, not because you're weak, but because you refuse to be baited. Let your stillness speak louder than your explanations. You don't owe the world a reaction every time it knocks. You don't have to open the door to every emotional thief. True emotional freedom isn't about shutting down. It's about being wise enough not to give away the keys to your peace. So instead of chasing approval, focus on alignment. Instead of fighting every battle, ask, will I even remember this next week? Because one day, you'll realize, most things don't deserve your attention. Not because they're not real, but because they don't help you grow. They don't bring you peace. Cut those ropes. Keep only the ones that pull you inward, toward your truth, your clarity, your health. So who told you that you must care about everything? That you have to explain, perform, please? Challenge that idea, and everything shifts. Because the less you react, the more you reclaim. And when you stop chasing the noise, you finally hear your soul. The less I care, the freer I feel. And now, let's dive even deeper. In the next section, we'll explore exactly how to build this inner peace and what Buddhist wisdom reveals about reclaiming your mind. You've begun cutting the ropes, loosening the grip of expectations. But what happens next? Once you reclaim your energy, where do you return? That's where freedom begins, not in control, but in clarity. Part 2. The illusion of control, chasing clouds with chains. Freedom begins the moment I return to myself. I let go. I detach. I redirect my focus. I begin to build a mind that is calm, steady, and quietly powerful. A mind that no longer needs to be shaken by every gust of emotion. This is the practice, not to escape life, but to face it with a presence so strong it becomes untouchable. There was a time when we all believed control meant safety. If only we could plan more, predict better, prepare for every possible outcome, then pain would have no room to surprise us. So we tightened our grip. We organized every minute. We rehearsed conversations in our head. We tried to control how people saw us, how they responded, how they felt. And yet, life continued to slip through our fingers like water. Have you ever tried to chain a cloud? That's what control feels like. The tighter you pull, the more exhausted you become. Not because life is cruel, but because your grip was never meant to hold it. To resist the flow is to suffer. To surrender is to swim. This lesson lies at the heart of Buddhist teaching. Control, though comforting in theory, is ultimately an illusion. Life isn't a puzzle to solve, but a river to be experienced. And every time you dig your heels in, trying to force outcomes, fix people, or manipulate your future, you're dragged further from the shoreline of peace. You don't suffer because life is unpredictable. You suffer because you insist it be different. In Buddhism, the path to peace always starts with acceptance, not passivity, but presence. Imagine this. You're sitting quietly beside a flowing river. Leaves drift past. Some are fresh and green, others dried and torn. But you don't reach out. You simply observe. That's the essence of mindfulness. That's meditation. You stop clinging. You stop chasing. You allow. Now ask yourself, am I caught in a storm I must weather, or am I slamming against a wall I cannot move? There's a difference. The storm calls for patience. The wall demands surrender. And in both, the answer isn't control. It's clarity. It's the deep breath you take in the eye of the chaos. It's the stillness you find in the middle of the noise. Because the truth is, the storm will pass, with or without your permission. And that wall, it was never meant to move. One of the most powerful shifts in spiritual growth is this. You stop measuring peace by how much you control, and start measuring it by how deeply you can let go. The next time you're overwhelmed, anxious, or spiraling into stress, try asking, "Can I act with intention, but detach from the outcome?" This is the heart of mindfulness. Align yourself with the effort, not the result. Plant your seeds with care, but don't stand over them demanding they grow faster. Letting go may feel like weakness, especially in a world that rewards hustle and control. But in truth, it is wisdom. It takes more strength to trust the flow than to fight it. Control screams, "I must fix this." Surrender whispers, "I'll do my part and trust the rest." So ask yourself, what would your life feel like if you were at peace, even in uncertainty? What would letting go make space for? Silence, joy, healing, maybe even the version of yourself that's been waiting underneath the noise. You don't have to chain the clouds anymore. Let them drift. Let life breathe. In that space, in that surrender, peace begins to rise. When I stopped trying to control everything, I finally began to live. Let go of what you can't hold. Breathe into the moment and discover a calm so deep, nothing and no one can disturb it. Now that you've tasted what real letting go feels like, it's time to look deeper into the forces that taught you to care too much in the first place. Let's explore how society quietly programs your mind and how to break free from the matrix of approval. You've begun to see that surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means making space for what was always waiting beneath the noise. And now, with a little more stillness inside, we can start to see clearly what truly matters. Part 3. The spotlight fades and your inner light remains. When the spotlight fades and the applause grows silent, what's left? Just you, your quiet, steady, undeniable inner light. And the truth is, that's the only light that ever truly mattered. I didn't find peace by chasing who I was supposed to be. I found it when I stopped caring and started remembering who I already was. Step out of the matrix. Stop chasing the shadows of perfection and performance. Begin living from your center, not from society's expectations, not from social approval, not from the scripted applause, because that sacred center, that's where nothing can touch you. No opinion, no rejection, no storm. That is the true beginning of freedom, when you no longer dance for the crowd, but walk steadily in your own rhythm. Part 4. The Art of Detachment. From the time we were young, we were taught to hold on. Hold on tight. Fight for what you want. Never let go. But what if sometimes the very act of holding on is the thing that's hurting you most? Picture yourself grasping a rose. The tighter your grip, the deeper the thorns cut into your skin. Now, imagine gently opening your hand. The rose still rests in your palm, still yours to admire, but it no longer hurts you. That's detachment. It's not about indifference. It's not about walking away or closing your heart. Detachment means presence, without possession, loving deeply but without fear, living fully but without clinging, holding life gently, not tightly. Many misunderstand this Buddhist principle. They think detachment means coldness, becoming numb, shutting down, avoiding connection. But the truth is the opposite. Real detachment is the art of being fully alive, fully engaged, but never imprisoned. Because when you stop clutching life with a closed fist, it moves through you like breath, soft, flowing, alive, unforced, free. Ask yourself honestly, what am I holding on to so tightly right now? Is it a relationship that no longer nurtures you? a plan that stubbornly refuses to unfold, a past that keeps replaying its story in your mind, a future that fills your chest with silent fear. The tighter you hold, the heavier it becomes. The more you cling, the more it slips away. So, what if you didn't? Begin with something simple. Shift your language. Instead of saying, "I need this to happen," try saying, "I would prefer this, but I'll be okay either way." That one small change softens your mind, loosens your grip, and reminds you your peace doesn't depend on outcomes. Visualize your thoughts and emotions as leaves floating down a river. Watch them come. Watch them go. Don't chase them. Don't dive in. Just observe. That's the muscle of detachment. And like all muscles, it grows through discomfort. When fear rises, don't flee. When uncertainty visits, don't slam the door. Let these moments pass through you, not around you. In that stillness, you'll find your power. And ask yourself gently, what am I holding so tightly that it's hurting me? Is it the need to be understood? The fear of being alone? The craving to be seen, liked, validated? Each time you ask these questions, you loosen one more thread of the rope, and eventually, you set yourself free. One of the Buddha's most timeless teachings is this: suffering begins with attachment. We don't suffer because life changes. We suffer because we wanted it to stay the same. But life is not something to grip. It's something to experience. And every moment, whether joyful or painful, is just passing through. Let go. Not because you've given up, but because you're wise enough to know what isn't yours to carry anymore. Let go so your hands are finally free to receive what's truly meant for you. Because when you release the weight, you rise. When I stopped gripping, I started growing. When I let go, I found peace waiting with open arms. Train your mind not to cling, but to witness. Not to control, but to feel, without possession. That's the art of detachment. That's the place where nobody and nothing can disturb your peace. Now that we understand detachment, let's explore what happens when we stop defining ourselves by external identities and return to the calm, spacious awareness that was always within us. After learning to let go and witnessing life without grasping, we now arrive at a deeper question. What happens when you stop reacting altogether? When you no longer let the world drag you into its chaos, but simply observe? Part 5. What happens when you just stop caring? Most people live their lives like a glass of muddy water that's been shaken, constantly stirred, endlessly cloudy. Every word, every glance, every unexpected moment becomes another spoon swirling up the silt. They react, they defend, they obsess over being understood, being seen, being right. But here's the quiet truth. The more you stir, the less you can see. Peace doesn't come from rearranging the chaos. It doesn't come from over-analyzing or over-explaining. It arrives when you stop stirring the water, when you set the spoon down and let the stillness return. And sometimes that stillness begins when you just stop caring, not from apathy, but from deep wisdom. When you stop caring about how you're perceived, you begin to perceive. When you stop needing to be heard, you finally hear. When you release the pressure to react, you reclaim your presence. This is the power of stillness. Buddhism reminds us that clarity isn't something you chase. It rises, naturally, effortlessly, when reaction ends. When you stop letting the world pull your mind in every direction, it begins to lose its grip on you, and you return quietly and powerfully to yourself. So ask yourself honestly, How many of your reactions are just habits? Someone says something rude. You feel the pull to respond. A plan falls apart. Your mind spirals into worry. You get ignored. You grasp for validation. But what if you didn't? What if, just once, you didn't reply? What if you sat with the discomfort, like watching a wave crest and fade without diving into it? That moment, that sacred stillness, is where your power lives. Instead of turning outward for validation, turn inward. Anchor yourself in breath, in your body, in your daily rituals, the small, quiet moments that reconnect you to the present. When you brush your teeth, feel the brush. When you sip your tea, taste every drop. When you walk, notice each step. These aren't chores, they're gateways. They're micro-meditations, everyday acts of awareness. In a world that demands constant reaction, presence becomes your rebellion. You're not here to win arguments. You're not here to prove yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You're here to live, to be, to breathe. And in many cases, silence is the wisest response. When you protect your peace instead of your ego, something remarkable happens. Your energy begins to rise. Not because you've won, but because you've outgrown the need to. Try watching your mind like clouds floating through the sky. Thoughts will come. Some are loud, some are painful, some are beautiful, but none of them are you. You are the awareness behind them. You don't have to chase every thought. You don't have to wrestle every emotion. You don't have to respond to every trigger. You just have to witness and let it pass. Ask yourself, what would my life feel like if I stopped reacting and simply observed? What feelings would fade? What truth might rise once the noise dies down? Because when the noise settles, your soul speaks. And that voice, soft, clear, patient, has been waiting beneath the surface, drowned out by your effort to care, to fix, to control. So let people think what they think. Let life unfold as it must. Let yourself unhook from the storm outside. Because when you stop trying to control the world, you finally begin to discover what it means to control yourself. And that is the beginning of real, lasting freedom. The moment I stopped reacting, I began healing. The moment I stopped chasing noise, I heard my own truth. Stillness is not empty. It's full of answers you've been too distracted to hear. And when you finally master the art of not reacting, not chasing, not clinging, nobody and nothing can shake the peace you've built within. Now, let's take it one step further. If you are not your reactions, then who are you? When you stop reacting, the noise fades, and in the silence, something ancient and steady begins to speak. But to hear it clearly, you must understand one vital truth. You are not your thoughts. Part 6. You are not your thoughts. The sky behind the storm. Imagine a powerful storm rolling across the sky. Thunder cracks, lightning flashes, rain pours relentlessly. But above all of it, untouched, unshaken, there remains the vast open sky. That's you. You are not the storm. You are the sky behind it. Your thoughts, your worries, your fears, they're just weather. They come and go. But your awareness, that's the sky. Constant, spacious, infinite. The mind is like a loud, restless guest. You, however, are the host, the one who chooses whether to engage or simply observe. Buddhist philosophy reminds us that most of our suffering doesn't come from reality itself. It comes from the stories we tell ourselves about reality. And those stories, they live entirely in the mind. But the moment you stop merging with your thoughts, the moment you shift from being them to observing them, something extraordinary happens. You create space, and in that space, peace arises. Try this simple practice. The next time a painful thought appears, I'm not good enough. They're judging me. I'll never make it. Don't fight it. Don't argue with it. Just label it. Quietly say to yourself, thinking or judging. That single act breaks the illusion. It reminds you the thought is not you. It's just a passing cloud in your mental sky. And like all clouds, even the darkest ones, it will pass. You are not your anxiety. You are not your self-doubt. You are the awareness silently watching it all unfold. This is what meditation teaches us. Not to fight or fix every thought, but to sit with them, to witness, to stop engaging. No chasing, no controlling, just observing. And in that space of quiet watching, healing begins. Yes, the storm may still rage, but the sky remains still. Here's a simple tool. Next time a troubling thought arises, write it down. Look at it. Then ask yourself, do I really want to believe this? Not, is it true? But, does this belief serve me? You'll be amazed at how many thoughts are just inherited habits, echoes of childhood, fear, culture, past pain. Thoughts you never chose, but believed anyway. When you start questioning them, their grip weakens. When you stop feeding them with your attention, they fade. When you let go of the need to believe everything your mind says, you find your footing again. Ask yourself gently, which of my thoughts are just noise? Can I sit with discomfort without obeying it? You'll begin to see that most thoughts are just mental reflexes, conditioned patterns that lose their power the moment you stop reacting to them. And that's when you return to the sky, vast, calm, and free. Detachment from thought doesn't mean shutting the mind down. It means no longer fighting with it. It means becoming like a mountain, still and grounded, letting the wind pass without losing your center. That's emotional resilience. Not chasing peace, not forcing stillness, but becoming so deeply rooted in your awareness that nothing can uproot you. The day I stopped believing every thought, I started hearing the truth more clearly. The sky was always there. I had simply forgotten to look up. You can't stop thoughts from rising, but you can stop following them. Let them come, let them go, and in every moment, know this. Beneath the noise of the mind, there's a quiet space inside you. Vast, luminous, untouchable. That is who you truly are. And in that still space, nobody and nothing can ever harm you again. So what happens when you no longer believe every thought, but still find yourself performing for the world's approval? In the next part, we'll explore how seeking validation clouds your truth and how to return to the still water of your soul. Once you stop believing every thought, you begin to see clearly. But even with clarity, there's still one trap that quietly pulls many of us off center: the need for approval. Part 7. Stop seeking approval. The mirror of still water. There comes a moment, if you're honest with yourself, when you realize you've been performing, not living. You've been shaping your words, adjusting your behavior, even bending your personality, all to fit someone else's expectations. But here's the hard truth. Someone else's opinion of you should never be louder than your own inner clarity. In Buddhist practice, there is no trophy for being admired, no finish line marked by applause. The goal is not praise, it's freedom. And freedom begins the moment you stop outsourcing your worth to people who can't define it. The world will always hold up mirrors, mirrors warped by comparison, fear, and societal scripts. But the clearest mirror you'll ever find is stillness. When your mind stops racing for recognition, your true reflection begins to appear, steady, unshaken. So pause and ask yourself right now, what am I trying to prove? And to whom? Sometimes we don't even know. We become so used to proving that we're intelligent, successful, attractive, strong, whatever the world says we should be, that we never stop to ask, do I even care about this? So much of what we chase was never ours to begin with. It was handed down like a script, written by culture, by parents, by trends. And you've been acting it out, scene after scene, forgetting that you were born to write your own story. Try this. Practice what I call naked honesty. Speak your truth, gently, but without editing it for applause. Say what you mean, not because it's popular, but because it's real. It can be as simple as declining an invitation when you're tired, or speaking an honest opinion without sanding down your edges just to fit in. Every time you choose honesty over approval, you peel away one more layer of the mask you were never meant to wear. Then, take a quiet moment. Sit in front of a mirror. No makeup, no performance, no fixing your hair or posture. Just sit. Breathe. Look into your own eyes and whisper, I am enough without applause. Let that truth echo through your bones. Because you were not born to be liked. You were born to be real. The more you need others to approve of you, the more you become a puppet. Each opinion, another invisible string pulling you out of yourself. But when you cut those strings, something beautiful happens. You begin to move in your own rhythm. You begin to speak, act, and live from the inside out. Approval is like a hungry ghost. No matter how much you feed it, it always wants more. But authenticity, that nourishes you, that sets you free. And maybe the world won't clap for it, but your soul will. So ask yourself, honestly, am I living to be seen or to be free? Who would you be if you stopped performing, stopped impressing, stopped filtering your truth to fit in? The day I stopped needing to be liked was the day I finally met myself. Still water reflects clearly, but the more you toss stones into it, the more you perform, people please, or seek validation, the more your reflection becomes distorted. So stop throwing stones. Let the water settle. Let yourself be still. Because in that quiet space where you no longer chase approval, you'll find something far more powerful than applause. Peace. And from that place, no voice, no judgment, no rejection can shake you. Now that you've returned to your truth, let's talk about boundaries and the quiet power of saying no without guilt. In the next section, we'll explore how setting limits isn't selfish. It's self-respect. Now that you've stopped seeking approval from others, it's time to protect what you've reclaimed, your truth, your energy, your peace. And it all begins with one powerful, often overlooked word, no. Part 8. Say no without guilt. The gentle power of boundaries. Let's start with this. No, I can't. That's a complete sentence. It doesn't need padding. It doesn't need apology. It doesn't need a long explanation wrapped in guilt or fear of disappointing someone. You don't need to twist your truth to make others more comfortable. Let your no be gentle but firm. Let it stand. Let it breathe. Let it mean something. Because every time you say yes when your soul means no, you quietly tell yourself that your needs come last. Ask yourself, what have I been tolerating that my soul is begging me to release? Maybe it's the draining conversations that leave you empty. Maybe it's being the emotional support system for people who never grow. Maybe it's the quiet, persistent self-abandonment, saying yes to meetings you dread, favors that burden you, environments where silence feels like survival. Saying no is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of clarity, and clarity leads to peace. One of the most transformative things you can do is create sacred time. Block out a few hours each week that belong to no one but you. No favors, no phone, no demands, just you, breathing, resting, realigning. That space is your inner temple. Defend it like your life depends on it, because it does. When others get upset with your boundaries, that's their karma, not your guilt. Their disappointment isn't a sign that you did something wrong. It's simply a reflection of their expectation, one they may have placed on you without asking. Release the urge to manage everyone's emotions. That's not your job. Your job is not to be liked. Your job is to be true. So ask yourself, how much lighter would my life feel if I stopped justifying my boundaries? What would shift if I stopped explaining my no and simply honored it? You weren't born to carry the weight of everyone's expectations. You were born to move freely, and that freedom begins with one sacred, honest word, no. Let it be soft, let it be clear, but above all, let it be real. Because every no you give to someone else becomes a yes to yourself, to your peace, your energy, your well-being. And in that alignment, where your actions match your inner truth, is where your true power lives. So here's your question. What would change if you said no without guilt? Not from rebellion, but from self-respect. How would your energy shift if you stopped negotiating with your truth? The answer isn't out there. It's inside your ability to say no when your soul quietly whispers, not this. And when you begin listening to that voice, when you follow its quiet wisdom, you'll discover something rare, something powerful, a life where nothing and no one has the power to control your peace. But even when you learn to say no, another trap still lingers, our attachment to results. In the next section, we'll explore how to let go of outcomes and finally find peace in the process. You've learned to say no without guilt, a quiet revolution of honoring your truth. But what about when life doesn't go your way, when the outcome slips from your hands despite your best efforts? That's where the next lesson begins. Letting go of results. Part 9. Let go of the outcome. Plant the seed, release the harvest. Say it when your mind spirals into what if. Say it when plans fall apart. Say it when your worth starts feeling tangled in success or failure. I let go of the result. I return to the now. This isn't about apathy. It's about alignment. You still show up. You still care. You still give your best. But now you do it with peace in your chest instead of panic in your pulse. Because the truth is, the tighter you grip the fruit, the less you enjoy the planting, and the breath, and the moment. And really, the moment is all you ever truly have. So ask yourself gently, what if my worth wasn't tied to achievement? What if I trusted the quiet, unseen timing of my life? What might happen if I gave my all, then let go? Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood that peace is more precious than prediction. Celebrate the showing up. Celebrate the trying. Celebrate the steady doing, again and again. Because who you become in the process, that's the reward, not the applause, not the outcome, just the becoming. So plant your seed. Water it with consistency and devotion. But don't dig it up every day, wondering if it's growing fast enough. That's not faith. That's fear in disguise. Instead, give life space. Let it surprise you. Let it unfold in its own divine rhythm. and something remarkable begins to happen. You start living lighter. You stop being yanked by every twist and turn, because now your energy isn't chained to what might happen. It's rooted in what is. So the question is, are you ready to stop pulling on the seed? The moment you do, the very moment you let go, you return to your calm. Nothing and no one can disturb that peace again. You act with clarity. You live with stillness. And you trust that what's meant for you already knows how to find you. Now that you've learned to let go with trust, it's time to go even deeper. What do you do with what drains you? The battles that exhaust you? The spaces that steal your light? You've learned the power of letting go, of releasing what you can't control. But sometimes what truly drains us isn't the future or the outcome. It's what we stay in, long after it's stopped serving us. Part 10. Walk away from what drains you, the silent exit. Here's a question worth asking, not just once, but often. Does this nourish my soul or does it deplete it? Because real peace isn't just about avoiding arguments. It's about being honest with yourself about where your energy is leaking and having the courage to stop giving it away. You don't have to stay in a space that drains you, not out of guilt, not out of loyalty, not out of habit. You don't owe your light to those who keep dimming it. So many of us remain in relationships, environments, and routines that no longer serve us. Not because they're good for us, but because we feel we owe something. But the truth is, the only person you truly owe anything to is yourself. You deserve to live in a space that nurtures your peace, a space that supports your growth, a space that feeds your soul, not one that chips away at your spirit day by day. And sometimes, the most powerful healing doesn't come from fixing what's broken. It comes from silently walking away. This doesn't mean slamming doors. It doesn't mean angry farewells. It means exiting with grace. It means protecting your energy like the sacred thing it is. Because when you walk away from what no longer serves you, you're not just leaving something behind. You're returning to yourself. You're reclaiming space that was always meant for your peace. And in that space, something better, something aligned, has room to grow. Ask yourself, what am I still staying in out of guilt, not growth? Is it a relationship you've outgrown? A job that drains you? A role you never chose but kept playing to please others? Every silent exit is a declaration. I choose peace over pressure. I choose myself over expectations. Remember, you were never meant to fight every battle. Some fires are not yours to put out. Some situations only continue to burn because you keep feeding them with your presence. In Buddhist thought, detachment isn't about coldness. It's about wisdom. The wisdom to know when it's time to let go. And when you walk away with peace in your heart, no rage, no regret, no dramatic explanation, that's the highest form of detachment. You're not saying, I'm better than this. You're saying, I no longer belong here. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's self-respect in motion. So the next time you find yourself in a draining situation, pause and ask, does this environment honor my growth or deplete my spirit? And if the answer is clear, then so should your path be. Walk away quietly. Walk away lovingly. Walk away without needing to justify anything, because in doing so, you make room for peace. And the world will begin to reflect the calm you now carry within. And once you've reclaimed your space, the question becomes, how do you hold on to that peace, even when life throws storms your way? After walking away from what drains you, a deeper question arises. How do you protect that peace once you've claimed it? The answer is found in mastering one of the most transformative practices of all: emotional non-reactivity. Part 11. Practice emotional non-reactivity, the unshakable tree. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, instead of reacting with anger or lashing out in frustration, what if you simply asked a question? Just one thoughtful question has the power to shift the energy. It breaks the emotional momentum, replacing confrontation with curiosity. Suddenly, what could have been an explosive moment becomes an opening for calm understanding. In that moment, you stop being a leaf tossed by the wind. You become the tree, rooted, steady, unmoved. This practice isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's not about bottling up your anger, ignoring your fear, or suppressing frustration. It's about recognizing these emotions without becoming them. Because like storms, emotions pass. But your stillness, when anchored in awareness, is constant. It's the ground beneath the chaos. When you return to your breath in the heat of the moment, you're not denying your emotions. You're simply choosing not to be defined by them. You let them arise and pass. You feel them, but don't follow them. You acknowledge them without letting them control your mind, your mouth, or your next move. Pause and consider. How often do you lose yourself in reaction? How often do someone's words, a comment, a glance, a tone completely throw you off balance? Now imagine this. What would change if you could stay grounded while everything else swayed around you? What would life feel like if you could breathe, pause, and respond? Not from fear, not from ego, but from a place of calm inner clarity? Here's what would happen. Your external world might stay the same, but your internal world would transform, and in that transformation, nothing and no one would have power over you anymore. So practice emotional non-reactivity. Be like the ancient tree, deeply rooted, solid in presence. Let the winds howl, let the storms pass, but remain grounded, remain centered. And slowly you'll notice something beautiful. The things that once shook you no longer reach you. You stop reacting. You start responding. And in that space, that gap between impulse and action, your true power begins to rise. Bonus lesson. Inner freedom begins with acceptance. The door was never locked. Here's the final truth, one that might change everything. You've been standing at the door for so long, trying to break it open. You've pushed, you've strained, you've believed that peace lives just beyond that threshold. But what if I told you? The door was never locked. In Buddhism, freedom isn't something you fight for. It's not achieved by forcing life to bend to your will. It's revealed when you stop resisting what already is. Because real freedom doesn't come from escaping your circumstances. It comes from changing your relationship with those circumstances. Every time you feel stressed, overwhelmed, or stuck, pause and ask yourself, am I resisting reality, or am I flowing with it? More often than not, our suffering isn't caused by what's happening. It's caused by our fight against what's happening. We believe that if we just try harder, push more, control tighter, life will finally cooperate. But here's the paradox. The more we resist, the more trapped we feel. And it's only when we release that resistance that the suffering begins to dissolve. Radical acceptance is the quiet key that unlocks peace. It doesn't mean you agree with everything. It doesn't mean you stop growing or improving. It means you stop fighting what is and meet it with presence instead of panic. Try whispering to yourself in a hard moment, "This is what it is, and I can meet it with calm." That's the beginning of inner freedom, not when life changes, but when you stop needing it to. It's not surrendering to failure, it's surrendering to now. You stop trying to bend the moment, and you let the moment be. And in that stillness, in that full-hearted acceptance of life as it is, you'll find the freedom you were chasing all along. Once you accept life as it is, without trying to force, fix, or fight it, something shifts. The struggle softens, and in that moment of surrender, you begin to live differently. Final reflection. The door was never locked. Each morning, before your feet touch the ground, try whispering this to yourself. I release what I can't change. I embrace what is. Say it again each night as the day winds down. It's simple, but it's sacred. Because when you begin and end your day with surrender, you're no longer carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're no longer trying to control everything. You're no longer resisting what already is. You're saying, I trust, I allow. I don't need to fight life to find peace. So many of us live in constant pursuit, trying to fix, trying to improve, trying to become. But what if peace was never found in perfection? What if peace was found in loving yourself through the imperfection? What if your fears, your doubts, your flaws weren't meant to be defeated, but simply embraced? That's what radical acceptance teaches us. That peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from meeting life with kindness. The moment you stop resisting what you cannot control, you start to see life more clearly. The struggles you've been carrying weren't just about your circumstances. They were about how you related to those circumstances. Ask yourself, what am I fighting right now that simply needs to be accepted? What if you stopped pushing against it and just leaned in? What if you let go of the rope, released the resistance, and allowed what is to simply be? You discover that the door to peace was never locked. You've just been trying to force it open, when all along you only needed to turn the handle and walk through. The freedom you've been searching for isn't out there. It's here, in this breath, this moment, this quiet willingness to accept what is. Quick summary of the principles. Let's recap what you've just heard and felt. Stop caring about everything. Caring about the wrong things drains your soul. Let your energy follow your values, not the noise. The illusion of control. Life is unpredictable. Trying to control everything only adds pressure. Peace begins when you let go. How society programs you to care. Much of your suffering comes from chasing scripts written by others. Question what you've accepted as truth. The art of detachment. Detachment isn't apathy, it's freedom. Hold life gently, not tightly. Let thoughts and emotions pass like clouds. Stop reacting to everything. Stillness is your superpower. When you stop giving energy to drama, you reclaim your peace. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are not facts. You are the awareness behind them. Watch without clinging. Stop seeking approval. The more you chase validation, the more you lose yourself. Authenticity is your path back to freedom. Say no without guilt. Boundaries are self-love in action. Saying no is not selfish, it's sacred. Let go of the outcome. Do your best, then release. Surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. Walk away from what drains you. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes silence is the strongest exit. Practice emotional non-reactivity. Respond with stillness, not impulse. Be like the unshakable tree, rooted, calm, and present. Accept reality as it is. The moment you stop resisting life, you begin to live in harmony with it. Acceptance is freedom. Final words: come home to yourself. There comes a moment in life when you stop running from yourself and begin returning home. Not everything needs your reaction. Not every opinion deserves your attention. And not every situation is worthy of your energy. The more you let go, the more you remember who you really are. When you stop caring about the wrong things, you start living for the right ones, for peace, for presence, for purpose. You're not here to impress the world. You're here to wake up from the illusion of control, comparison, and fear. Life doesn't ask for your perfection. It asks for your presence. In Zen, we say, the less you cling, the more you see. Because a mind clouded by stress, opinions, and expectations is like a dirty mirror. It reflects nothing clearly. But when you clean that mirror with clarity and detachment, the truth shines through. And what you'll see is that you are already enough. You always were. So don't let society, stress, or self-doubt dictate the quality of your life. Take back your power. Walk lightly, live freely, and care only for what truly matters. Because the moment you stop reacting to everything, you rise above it all. If something in this message stirred something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video if it brought you clarity. Share it with someone who needs peace today. Comment below with the moment that resonated with you most. And don't forget to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds for more mindful teachings and gentle reminders to live with calm, truth, and compassion. Until next time, breathe deeply, walk gently, and keep choosing peace again and again.